Over the course of time, Bleach has had several novels which have added to the lore and story of Bleach. We've had installments like We Do Not Always Love You or Death Saved the Strawberry, but for the most part, a lot of these novels are never translated into English, with the exception of the 3-part Can't Feed Your Own World series. The character that I'm going to be talking about in this video originates from the 2-part Spirits Are Forever With You novel series. These novels were written by Ryogo Narita, the same author who had done Can't Feed Your Own World, and all of the artwork within it was drawn by Kubo himself. Both volumes of Spirits Are Forever With You were released on the 4th of June 2012, and as of making this video, they are a Japanese exclusive release. These novels were created to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Bleach. One of the main reasons that I'm focusing on this series of novels is because on the 26th of April it was announced that Spirits Are Forever With You will be collaborating with Bleach Brave Souls. So what better time than now to talk about this novel series and the characters that feature within it, now that its material is being adapted in some form into English. The story for the most part initially centers around Don Kanonji and his mission to save the Soul Society, but along the way he encounters several interesting characters, of which include members of the Kenpachi lineage, and in this video we're going to be focusing on the 7th Kenpachi, Kenpachi Kuruyashiki. We're going to be covering everything that we know about this character from the novels, as well as discussing the role that he plays in carrying forward the title of Kenpachi. So without further delay, let's dive into my breakdown of the 7th Kenpachi. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. Kuruyashiki was a former captain of the 11th Division, and like I've mentioned, he held the title of the 7th Kenpachi. The title of Kenpachi is given to the strongest Shinigami. Now because there can only be one Kenpachi for any given generation, any individual wanting to inherit the title must kill the current Kenpachi. We learn about this rule within chapter 526, and through the role of Kenpachi Zaraki, after he had killed his predecessor Kenpachi Kiganjo, who we were introduced to during the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. Now within Bleach, we only know about 3 Kenpachis. The first to inherit the title, Retsu Unohana, the 10th Kenpachi, Kenpachi Kiganjo, and of course the 11th and current holder of the title, Kenpachi Zaraki. But within the novel series Bleach Spirits Are Forever With You, we are introduced to the 7th Kenpachi Kuruyashiki, as well as the 8th Kenpachi Soya Azashiro. Kuruyashiki was described as a formidable warrior who had fought alongside current captains of the Gotei 13 like Shunsui. They had taken part in several battles over the course of several hundreds of years. Now upon initial inspection, he does appear to have a striking resemblance to Ginjo Kugo, but the life that he leads is completely different. From the sketch that Kubo has drawn of the 7th Kenpachi, we can see that he is a tall and well-built Shinigami, with long dark flowing hair that reaches past his neck. He has a sleeveless captain's coat and a black Shinigami Shihakusho that he wears under it, as well as having the signature chest hair which will remind you of Shunsui. Speaking of Shunsui, Kuruyashiki was actually one of his closest friends. It is said that he had known the 7th Kenpachi better than any of the other captains within the Gotei 13. Under his rule, the 11th Division ended up having a great deal of respect for him. He was a warm-hearted character who was very extroverted, so understandably his underlings had found him to be very approachable, unlike the current leader of the 11th Division, Kenpachi Zaraki, who is anything but approachable. Most of the information about this character is revealed to us within the first Spirits Are Forever With You book, as we learn a lot of key information about his character within the 2nd and 16th chapter. Now while holding the title of the strongest Shinigami and understandably excelling in battle, he was known to not brag or boast about his skills. Choosing to remain humble, he instead speaks about how much he respects individuals like Head Captain Yamamoto, Unohana, and the heads of the Kuchiki and Chihoin clans, having admiration for them because of the power that they hold. The earliest piece of information that we learn about Kuruyashiki is that he was offered a promotion into the 0 Division, but he had humbly declined the offer, as he had admitted that he would not be a good fit to protect the Soul King, describing himself as far too lazy for the task. We know that Kuruyashiki had fought the previous Kenpachi in a battle to the death, and he was able to protect his title for several centuries. Within chapter 2 of Spirits Are Forever With You, we are taken 250 years before the defeat of Aizen. Somewhere within Rukongai, the 11th Division, who are specialized in combat, are facing off against several hollows. As the sounds of swords clashing fills the air, they are accompanied by their captain Kuruyashiki, and it is said that he had radiated so much spiritual pressure that it had made the masks on the faces of the hollows shake. Several hours after the battles with the hollows, the the 11th Division is seen to be having a drinking party in celebration of their victory. The 4th and 8th Division had arrived to their location in order to offer support, but it wasn't needed as the battle was already over. Kuruyashiki had invited them to join their party. Among the members was Captain Shunsui, who had joined them in their celebration. The 7th Kenpachi would go on to ask Shunsui if he would be able to defeat a Vasto Lorde, to which Shunsui responds that it depends upon whether if he is suited to that opponent's skill sets. For example, he may win against a Vasto Lorde but lose against a Gillian. It just depends upon the abilities of the Hollow. He had asked this question because in the past Kuruyashiki had defeated a Vasto Lorde who was a high-ranking member of Baragon's army of Hollows, and this victory over a Vasto Lorde had earned him the respect of his division members. At the time, we learned that Kuruyashiki's lieutenant was none other than Ashido Kano. He was a Shinigami who had disappeared within Huecomundo a few years ago while on the hunt for a Hollow. This character was originally supposed to appear within the manga during the Huecomundo arc, but he had to be cut from the series due to time constraints. He does make an appearance during the short story arc of the Forest of the Menos, which takes place between episodes 147 to 149 of the anime. The group who is partying is then interrupted by the arrival of a young man who requests for a second of Kuruyashiki's time. From the way that this individual had carried himself, it was evident that he was from nobility. He cuts to the chase and addresses Kuruyashiki and states that he had heard that if he kills him in front of his 200 men, then he will gain the title of Kenpachi, as well as the position of the 11th captain of the Gotei 13. Kuruyashiki confirms this to be correct, to which the young man states that he would like to challenge him to the death right now. While the other members of the 11th Division laugh at this request, Shunsui and Kuruyashiki on the other hand remain firm in their expressions. The 7th Kenpachi gets up and states that he doesn't need to sober up, as he accepts the young man's request. The division members appear to be pitying the young man, as he isn't even carrying a zanpakuto. He is just accompanied by a black-haired woman who appears to be wearing a white kimono, which is excessively decorated, along with 2 leather straps having crossed over her face covering her eyes. The 11th Division members form a circle around their captain and the young man who has challenged him. Before beginning the battle, Kuruyashiki requests for Shunsui to act as a witness of their battle. When Shunsui tries to tell the young man that there are other ways to become a captain of the Gotei 13, he responds by telling him that he isn't interested in small talk. Shunsui notes that his response is very cold and lacks any emotion, as he then warns Kuruyashiki to be careful, as he thinks to himself that the fact that the young man doesn't have a zanpakuto, this doesn't mean that he's going to be weak. Kuruyashiki seems to ignore Shunsui's warning as he smiles and continues with the battle. Over the hundreds of years that he has held the title of Kenpachi, he has won several battles to the death. After the young man confirms that the requirements for the battle are met and they are both prepared, Kuruyashiki then finds himself being caught up by an unknown force. It's almost as if a whirlwind of blades have just burst out of his body, as his blood begins to spray out everywhere. None of the 11th Division members, as well as Shunsui, has seen the young man draw a zanpakuto or even summon a Kido spell. In fact, the young man didn't even move at all. In chapter 16, we learn about the aftermath of their battle and Kuruyashiki's final moments. The young man who had defeated him was none other than Soya Azashiro, a member of the noble Azashiro family. The 11th Division members refused to accept him as their new leader, as they state that he had cheated, as he had defeated their captain without even moving. They charge towards Azashiro as Shunsui tries to stop them, but Kuruyashiki beats him to it as he releases his Shikai, called Gagaku Kairo. This manages to blast them away, as we learn more information about his Shikai, finding out that it's a living type zanpakuto, very similar to Unohana's Minazuki. Kuruyashiki's zanpakuto is a white monster the size of a bear. It has no eyes, nose, ears, or limbs. It simply has a large mouth with equally as large fangs. There are 13 of these creatures floating around Kuruyashiki. The 7th Kenpachi struggles as he gets back onto his feet. In this instance, he is barely alive. He somehow finds the strength to yell at his subordinates, as he tells them to accept that he has lost, telling them not to bring shame to the 11th Division. He tells Shunsui to also accept this decision and to tell the head captain to look after this young man. He tells Shunsui that he regrets that he wasn't able to fight against him and Ukitake even once, as he would have liked to test his skills out against them. Just as he is about to die, his zanpakuto returns to its sealed state as he falls to his knees. Azashiro, who is now looking down at the kneeling Kuruyashiki, states that he may have lost if Kuruyashiki had immediately released his Bankai. The Bankai of the 7th Kenpachi was known across the Soul Society. Upon activation, it would summon an enormous jaw with large fangs from the ground, which would eat and destroy everything within its reach. Kuruyashiki's Bankai would eat everything except for himself. But because of this incredible power, his Bankai had 2 significant drawbacks. After activating it, Kuruyashiki Kuruyashiki would not be able to use his Bankai or his Shikai for 6 months, and the second drawback would be that he isn't able to control the power of his Bankai properly, meaning that anybody in the area, whether if it is an enemy or a friend, would be killed, thus explaining why Kuruyashiki didn't activate his Bankai, because Shunsui and his subordinates were with him. His Bankai was so powerful that the Central 46 had deemed it to be too dangerous and had forbidden him from using it within the Serite, but because their battle are taking place within Rukongai, Kuruyashiki could have definitely used his Bankai here, but he didn't in order to protect his subordinates, and Azashiro thinks that this was foolish to do. Before dying, Kuruyashiki acknowledges him as his successor and also whispers something to him, and just before he dies, he smiles and turns towards his subordinates and Shunsui, offering to them his final words. He tells them not to worry because he has died, because the title of Kenpachi will never die. Kuruyashiki would then succumb to his injuries and die, approximately 250 years before the present timeline of the series. While being a member of the infamous Kenpachi lineage, not many people would have known about this character, and after speaking about his role within the Spirits Are Forever With You novel, it's really made me want to talk about Soya Azashiro. So if you want a video on the successor of Kuruyashiki, the 8th Kenpachi Soya Azashiro, then definitely leave a comment under this video. As for this video, I want to thank Bleach Brave Souls for even putting me onto this character, and after doing some research about him and watching videos by individuals like Simo Urohara, it made me love an individual who I had no idea about, while at the same time we get some much needed expanding upon the Kenpachi lineage. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about Kenpachi Kuruyashiki, then I suggest watching Simo Urohara's video for more info. He has done an excellent job of explaining the events of Spirits Are Forever With You, and I highly recommend checking him out. Once again, let me know if you want a video on Azashiro. I would love to make a character analysis on him too, and definitely continue the discussion about Kuruyashiki in the comments. What were your thoughts upon his character? He was definitely a very different type of Kenpachi than what we are used to, but through his division members you could tell that it would have been fun to work under him. So thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach analysis video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.